Wrestling with Faith.
Welcome to an episode of Wrestling with Faith. This one's a little bit more kind of personal and special to me because I get to introduce to you not only a friend of mine, but also a mentor of mine. His name is Michael King, and I'd like to welcome you to the program. Michael, how are you tonight?
I am doing well. Yourself?
Doing fantastic. I used to know Michael as the Asian sensation, and as of recently, you've changed that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's growth. You never stay the same. You always improve, and there's actually more to me than being Asian. And I give it a lot of thought, and I thought, what is a more accurate description of me and how I present it would be the distinguished gentleman. I know there is a Jody Powell over in Explosive Pro Wrestling, and he is actually also has a podcast. I'll plug him for free if you don't mind on Abundant
Sure.
Life TV. But his name is Jody Powell, and he calls himself the gentleman Jody Powell. I'm the distinguished gentleman. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I like that. And you can plug anybody that you want as far as, professional wrestling or faith or entertainment industry. Um, you know, it's community as far as I'm concerned. The pro wrestling community should promote itself and promote each other. So I'm certainly happy to do that. So when we were talking before we came on air, we discussed a little bit that it has been since really the Raw after WrestleMania, since you have actively been involved in watching what would be the big televised professional wrestling brands. Is that correct? And if so, why? That would be the follow-up.
it was. So I kind of took a hiatus from watching, WWE, AEW.
Sure.
Those are the two for a while. I think a lot of it was, I don't know, it was starting to get into the cartoony world again for me.
Not a Danhausen fan, I take it.
Not so much. I kind of understand it though. But I think about it. I go back to, I'm an old dude. All right. I'm 56 years old. I'm watching early 80s wrestling, which is
Sure.
very different than what's out there now. But even if you go back to the Attitude Era, one of the things that led to WCW's rise in that Attitude Era was all the WWE characters were very cartoony. We were like the dump truck, blah, 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 and WCW was like, we're Kevin Nash and we're just going to punch your faces because you can't do anything about it. Right. And so it was
the realism.
It's a realism. Like,
yeah.
I can suspend a certain amount of reality. And then I get to a point where I don't want to have to play this dumb anymore.
Right.
And I feel WWE is going back to that place again. And I know like AEW is trying to be the WCW as far as realism goes. I don't think they're quite there. But at least it's a different flavor that you do get to watch. It's interesting how there's been a little change in the personality of the AEW and AEW ownership, and how suddenly they're not interested in attacking WWE anymore and just kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so to be honest with you, I had not heard of a change of ownership as far as AEW.
No, it's not a change of ownership and change of mindset.
Oh, change of mindset. So I had read an article, and maybe you read the same, about Tony Khan renewing his faith in Christ, and that having a big part of him no longer taking the kind of the low blow route, if you will.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So no, I think it's fascinating, and I applaud him for it for sure.
I
Um,
also find it fascinating that WWE, who wasn't taking the low blow route previously, they were just saying we're bigger and we're better, so you don't matter,
right.
is now taking the low blow route.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I mean, isn't it so common for the enemy, if you will, when it comes to spiritual warfare, to immediately go, "Wait, you're taking the high road? I'm going to kick you any way I can. I
Yeah,
want to irk you back into the mud with me."
exactly. Exactly. So I find it fascinating. I mean, it's kind of the same story throughout different periods of my life, as far as walking in faith, walking in faith, stumbling here and there, and that type of thing. It's like as soon as you make an intentional change,
Mm,
there's a what I would call an intentional rebuttal.
yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. Um, so that's kind of interesting. So let's take a moment. We'll pause on the wrestling for just a moment. We'll kind of like slide over just into the rabbit hole of world events, if you will. One of the major discussing points, um, just in the past year, like, and not that you can't like get a Rolodex out and pick one, you
right.
know, but UFO disclosure. And
Hmm.
um, one of the biggest rumors that go around there, as far as the internet is concerned, is the implication that several high-end government authorities and high-end military officials have discussed the fact that once people find out what's really going on, it's going to blow their mind and destroy their faiths, because we're talking not just extraterrestrial but interdimensional beings, and that is interesting. So I would love to hear your take on that, because now we're stepping into a point where, like, the official word has been for like the past 70 years, none of that exists, and now they're like, it all exists. So, and to me, on a faith level, like, that reaffirms kind of what I've read in the Bible all along. But I'd love to know, like, kind of what is your take on all of that right now in the world of disclosure and spiritual warfare.
I think it's interesting. I've never been a believer nor a disbeliever in extraterrestrial life. It's just not a place where I've put my energy and my time. And
Kind of an indifferent believer.
well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like ghosts and that type of thing. Do they exist? Do they not exist? I'm not sure. I haven't gone out there, shaken hands with the ghost, and had a long, drawn out conversation with one. I've never ran into an alien or anything like that. And where is that going to get me, whether I believe or disbelieve in that type of thing? Nowhere, ultimately. And so we tie both of them back to the Bible. The Bible
Right.
isn't about science fiction. The Bible isn't about ghosts or undead or any of that kind of stuff. So, but ultimately, I don't believe that either one is a debunking of the Bible. Um, I personally believe that good science actually affirms the Bible.
Agreed. Agreed. 100%. Yep.
So, um, extraterrestrials existing, having been here before, I mean, you could take some of that, and I'm not well studied in it, but you could take some of that and you could start looking back in history and you go, okay, so this would make sense. I mean, if we have like this evidence where intellectually and mathematically and engineeringly speaking, we don't know how to build something, but an extraterrestrial does. And so now we have these things that were built that nobody can explain because theoretically the the math and the skill sets weren't there to do it. It came from somewhere, right?
Sure.
So I
Absolutely.
think that could affirm the extraterrestrials. And you look at the descriptions of angels and that type of thing
Yes, sir.
in the Bible, and then you go back to the extraterrestrials. It's like, maybe the angels were extraterrestrials. It's kind of what they're called in the Bible, right?
Right. No. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, so I've studied the subject to some extent. I wouldn't profess that I have a PhD in it or anything like that, because, like, I mean, who can, right? Like, at this point, but um, one of the, I think, more interesting posts that I saw in regards to it is that the supposed, or let's say alleged, alien races that we've been introduced to thus far that have been highly discussed are your grays, your insectoids, your reptilians, and then the Nordic, which are really kind of almost classic blonde hair, tall, almost angelic like looking beings. So it's
Mm-hmm.
what I think what's fascinating about it is it connected it into the book of Revelation, where in one of the prophecies, the book of Revelation refers to the locusts, which kind of goes to your insectoids. It
Mm-hmm.
talks about I want to say kind of like frog-ish looking creatures in the prophecy of Revelation, where they're relating that to obviously your the grays, actually, because of the big bulging eyes, and
Mm-hmm.
the dragon of Revelation, which goes to the reptilians, and of course your angels. They appear as angels of light. So it's interesting that there's such a quick and easy correlation um, in scripture description of what would be spiritual beings or
Mm-hmm.
angels, if you will, and then the connection to the alleged beings that we're being primed for, as some of your conspiracy theorists might go ahead and suggest. But I find that to be fascinating. And to your point, if you study the hierarchy of the Elohim, or the spiritual beings, being angels, archangels, seraphim, the seraphim and cherubim, and some of the others, there's a couple more in there, but um, if you take those and then do a direct correlation to the 50 supposed races that your conspiracy community is convinced exists, you can find a lot of correlations that go back and forth between the two. And when you use the word extraterrestrial, you're talking about something that is, more than or beyond this planet.
Right.
Interdimensional is more than and beyond this dimension. That does not necessarily make them different.
Yeah, I agree. I agree
So I
completely.
just find the whole fascinating, or the whole subject fascinating for sure. With that being said, a moment back into the wrestling environment, you stopped watching because of the um, oh, caricature,
So
cartoonish nature
yeah,
of it.
so there was like that. I don't even know the full details anymore. It's just ridiculous. I couldn't
Sure.
wrap my mind around it. But they're doing this funeral service for an inanimate object. All right. Um, and
Gosh, I don't even remember that.
yeah, they're doing a funeral service. And I'm not familiar, but the gosh, I'm blanking on the name. The guy that does the huluva kick,
Sami Zayn.
Sami Zayn. So they're doing this mock funeral service for an inanimate object, and Sami Zayn interrupts it. He comes out and says, "This is stupid. This is ridiculous." And he's the heel, and it's like, you know what? I agree with Sami Zayn. This whole thing is stupid and ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I vaguely remember that. But then again, so that kind of goes to what you're speaking of, because it doesn't stick with me. If it doesn't stick with me, if it doesn't stick with you,
Mm-hmm.
it's not really working. So my
Right.
question, what I was alluding to is, so we talked a little bit about why you stopped. What would you do different? Because I know, like, you and me both kind of aspire to booking. Is not our top priority, but we kind of like both. I have some experience in it. I believe you have some experience in it, and I think one day, our side projects and family life might settle down enough that we'll team up on something. But if you were booking right now, whether you wanted to pick AEW or WWE or TNA or whichever, what would you do different to stand out from the crowd and to fix wrestling, and this is a Michael King question. I've covered a little bit of this kind of myself. I want your answer.
It's tough, to be honest with you.
Sure.
I would try to get back into the mindset of wrestling is a competition that two
Yes.
people are trying to win.
Yes.
It does not have to be two people who are just angry at each other and want to punch each other in the face. Now,
Yeah.
naturally, you can get to that part, but it seems to me like they start there instead of end up there. So I'd like to
Yeah.
I'd like to get back to the, hey, let's bring wrestling back, at least in the origin of story, to two people competing to win. And then story can come from how a person wins or a person not liking how they lose or whatever. But you can go back to that point.
Right.
Also, I like a more realism in a sense where there's nobody, no mortal person who is 100% good and 0% bad. So
Right.
I like to have a little bit more
You want shades of
personality
gray.
driven, some shades of gray, but it allows you to associate with the person, you know?
Yeah. To connect.
Yeah, and that's the real thing. People go to wrestling specifically because it's interactive. I mean, you don't go to the opera and act like you do in a wrestling show. You know, you don't go to outside of what, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. You don't go to a movie theater and interact.
Well,
You observe.
Minecraft got a lot of people in trouble. I'm just saying.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, but you know what I'm saying. There's a
Yeah,
couple,
no,
but yeah,
100%.
and so, but wrestling is designed to get the fans involved.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, and
Yep.
The fans, the fans as a whole are relatively smart. And I go back to when the WWE tried to force babyface Roman Reigns on the fans.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Right?
this
The
is a
fans,
shoot, by the way, people,
yeah.
because when he's a heel, he doesn't think any of you are smart, but real Michael does.
WWE said this guy is going to be the face of the franchise. He's going to be the baby face, and you're going to have to just deal with it.
Yeah.
And the fans gave the WWE the middle finger. And honestly, I felt bad for Roman Reigns in that time period. I really
did
did.
as well. I did as well.
And
I saw the fans' point.
Absolutely. I
But at
didn't
the same
disagree with the
time, like,
fans.
yeah, I felt for him.
Yeah. And he got murdered by John Cena on the microphone. And it was, you can't force your product onto your audience. A good product is going to draw the audience, not something that you're forcing upon them. And I kind of feel WWE lost their way in that regard. And now they're doing things, personally, maybe more for their own amusement than it is for other people's amusement.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is that Triple H is, he's having to answer to more than just Vince McMahon now. He's got the TKO board, and they're throwing lots of directives at him, whereas before it was Vince and it was one directive, and that one directive already had his mind made up as to how it would go until he got to the show and rewrote the whole thing.
Yes.
It's tough waters to navigate, but I think part of it is I think he knows that because the internet is so connected, because our society is so connected, because there's so much of social media and feedback and YouTube and whatnot, that he has to listen to the audience to an extent. But finding that balance of when you listen to the audience too much and not enough, and it's a difficult balance. And I think that I think that it gets muddied when you have so many cooks in the kitchen and they're saying, oh no, we need you to cut down on costs because we're a multi-billion-dollar company, and God forbid we spend money to have a human being put together the pay-per-view images. We're okay with the AI mistakes. We need to cut costs. And I want more AI in the writer's room because I want to fire some of those people too to go ahead and cook up more AI stories. It's a really strange thing to
It
even
is.
talk about.
It is.
Um, so
And
I'm with you, but it's so I don't think everybody really considers how much he's having to juggle. That is just unprecedented in this business.
oh, absolutely. And I know there were a large number of Vince haters out there, and they were pretty stoked about TKO taking over and Vince getting kicked to the curb. And
Sorry, I'm one of them.
yeah, I know, but I think what may have happened is you ended up with 9 Vinces instead of just one, and you have only one Triple H, and so Triple H could influence one person more easily than he could influence 9.
Yeah.
No, I'm not out here saying I love everything Vince did.
Oh
I
no,
can't
but
say
yeah,
that
no, I
I'm a
understand. Like the scenario you present of like 9 Vinces, like it makes sense, right? You got people that are rich, out of touch, out of date, but still in charge, and they want you to do this.
yes. And
Yeah, no,
so,
I get you. I
but
totally get you.
I wanted it out of Vince's hand. I mean, I think like most fans, I think we wanted it just in Triple H's, not in some board of directors' hands.
Yeah, and I think therein lies some of the problem is there's too much micromanaging going on at TKO. I think WWE would thrive better if there was a little bit less of that. Um, uh, but to your point, like I think listening to the fans, like I think Danhausen is funny, but I hate comedy wrestling when it overshadows the wrestling. I hate when sports entertainment is more important than the professional wrestling. And I feel like some of that's happening. And God bless Danhausen. I'm not a Danhausen hater. I actually like him. I think he's funny. But for everybody to play along with the curse is sports entertainment. To me, professional wrestling felt its best when Undertaker was not really considered a dead man, but seen through the perspective of he wants you to think he is because that's his psychological warfare, right? And if
Right.
you play it off like it's gimmick, he knows it's a gimmick, it's psychological warfare. I think it has that realism. The moment you start having him cast lightning, you've gone over to Cartoonville.
Right. Or into the core Asian martial arts. Because in Asian martial arts, the reason why those movies are like that is in Asian culture, martial arts is intertwined with magic.
Okay. I am going to follow you on this one.
Okay.
You're going to have to hold my hand because I had I had big respect for Bruce Lee, and Jackie Chan, Jet Li. Like I love
Right.
like Asian
Yeah.
martial arts
Okay.
action movies. But I don't
Those are
know enough about
Americanized.
I don't
Those
know
are
enough about the
Americanized.
origin.
Right.
Yeah, no, for
So
sure. Yeah, so teach
yeah.
us. Teach us.
Yeah. So if you go to, because I grew up on it, I mean, I'm talking my mom's Vietnamese, and we get these black market copies of martial arts movies, and you'll see things even in like the Hero by Jet Li. They'll carry it over to that. When a person can do a jump kick, right? And they just go for like 30 feet. Like
Yeah.
in your mind is like, they don't do that. But in the culture, there's magic to that. So that martial art includes flight. You can ride lightning down from the sky because that is your ability, your magic in martial arts.
Oh,
All right.
I love that. Now I have a whole new subject I have to study.
So anyway, it's a way out tangent, but yeah, when you can call lightning in WWE, it's a problem because it's it's not the core foundations of what wrestling is about.
Right, absolutely. And
Right?
and a dangerous stunt, and not necessarily one that isn't going to scare that crap out of somebody who is in this culture we're supposed to be a little bit more sensitive about things. We do have so many people who are neurodivergent that go to these shows that even have to wear like the noise canceling headphones to deal with
Mm-hmm.
some of the noise of just the crowd itself, and then there you are like popping off lightning. And I'm not saying like you can't do that, but I don't know if the risk versus reward weighs out, especially in the damaging of, it's not a live action Marvel movie, right? It should be a
Right.
live action movie, but not a live
Mm-hmm.
action Marvel movie.
Yeah, I mean, because I
Because the
love the
last time you had somebody
theatrics.
come out of the rafters, they died. So,
Right. I,
right,
I like the theatrics for the entry, right?
right. To get
Uh,
aura built,
yeah, you build the aura. You
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 build the
bring
aura, you
you bring
hype
your
the
hands
match.
down and the flames shoot out from the four corners of the ring, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But to call lightning and strike your enemy to win a match is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I know, like the blue, the Owen Hart incident wasn't the last time they had somebody come down to the ring, but the point being, like, the risk was not worth the reward. It's just not. Having
Right.
those kind of stunts in a live arena doesn't even have the payoff. Like when Sting did it a couple of times, um, it just, it's not the most talked about thing in professional wrestling. You know, I don't know it's worth those kind of stunts. I do think, and I've learned a lot about ring psychology, and I think that a lot of the modern day guys would do well listening to psychology, not ignoring the spots that they want to do, but making them mean something. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying, right? I'm not saying like drop it and do a sleeper hold for like 20 minutes. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if the audience doesn't appreciate the sleeper hold, it ain't worth doing. If they don't appreciate a 450 into an elbow drop, it's not worth doing. You have to get them invested.
I completely agree. And I listen to people planning their matches and that type of thing. Um, and in my opinion, they're missing a huge component in the planning, and and it's because they're asking the wrong question.
Mm-hmm.
The question should be, what is the audience feeling right now when I do this? What is the audience feeling here? What is the audience feeling when you do that? Um, I watched the movie Top Gun Maverick. I'm not sure if you did.
You've
And
highly recommended it. I have not found the time to watch it.
okay. And I watched it. I loved it. I kind of think it's the perfect movie. And then I watched it again with the intent of feeling what I'm feeling at the time and just what the ride is. Right. And I did it that way because that's how wrestling is supposed to go.
Yeah.
Right. And there's just like this 5 minute piece that I think is great for wrestling if you just look at it for the ride and not for the content. All right. The content is they're doing this training run, they go up, they, you know, hit like Mach 10. The guy passes out from the G forces, so his plane is going down. Oh my God, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. Wait, Maverick's here to save the day, so he comes down, wakes the guy up, and boom, the guy's back up again. He's alive, everything is good. And then there's a bird strike, and it's like, oh my God, bird strike, bird strike. Oh wait, Maverick's okay. Oh wait, the other plane is hit. Oh my God, they're going down. and then they, punch out, and so they're fine. They end up in the hospital for observation, but it's like that's the ride
Yeah.
right there, right?
Yeah. Which,
And
yeah.
and it's like, are you in wrestling? Are you taking your fans on that ride? Or are you talking about super kick, pin, kick out, blah blah blah? What are you? You're talking about these things, but you're not talking about the ride.
Yeah. So Crucifix taught me a phrase that has stuck with me my whole life, from the ring. And I think, and I would challenge you, and anybody who is, up for arguing, which is fine. I would suggest that you can find this formula in all storytelling, which has to do with wrestling, right? So you have the shine, right, which is the open of the match, or more importantly, it's when you make the person care about the protagonist or the hero. That's your shine. Your heat is when you add the pressure onto the good guy, whether you're doing it as Green Goblin versus Spider-Man, or you're doing it, Undertaker taking on Shawn Michaels, the good version, or whatever, or you talk about it with The Office and the paper closing, or being threatened with a close. You add the pressure. And the comeback is everything seems like it's going to be okay, but then it's not, right? That's when you have your falsy, and your finish, right? So you're teased that it's going to be okay, but it's not quite. But maybe it is, but it's not quite. You keep adding that roller coaster pressure until you give them the release of the finish. Be it good or bad, you finish that story. And even in that segment right there, where the planes go up and they do their fancy stuff, and you got your shine, and then he passes out, which is his heat, but then Maverick comes to make the save, which is comeback, and then you have your falsy and your finish. It's in all forms of storytelling. And if you're not hitting those checks, they're not going to care by the end.
Right. And my argument is they're not talking. They're not asking the questions about those checks, right? They're just planning
the spots.
Sets. Yeah.
They're planning the sets and the spots without considering what it does for the story, which is your shine, your heat, your comeback, your falsy, and your finish. And I usually say falsy finish, because there's generally going to be more than one falsy, unless you're the mid-card jobber or whatever.
Right.
But generally the case, the idea is that you get them interested, then you give them a reason to feel challenged in what they're interested in. Then you have that comeback only to take it away. And then you make them think the end is here. It's not. The end is here. It's not. Until you finally give them the satisfying conclusion, or steal that conclusion so they buy tickets for next time. You have to consider what that emotional roller coaster looks like. And your super kicks, your DDTs, your 450s are the tools that you use to kind of paint on that canvas.
Right. Absolutely. And you got to think about it. Is what you're doing, what you're planning, is that actually working to draw in the audience? Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
I love it.
If you don't, then everything else that you want to do for that ride, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, for sure. I think I know you don't follow current wrestling, which is totally fine, but this, I think I want to say in the past day or two, AEW had one of their pay-per-view events, and Jericho took on Tommaso Ciampa. Those are two amazing workers, and I can't say that I watched the whole match, and I don't think I'm going to, because I personally don't like matches that lean so heavily on shock factor, gore effect, rather than the technical ability that both those guys are absolutely phenomenal for. And I think at one point Jericho pulls out a mirror and puts it in between two chairs to get driven through, so they both go through the glass and whatnot. It's a lot of shock factor. It's a lot of wow, especially for people who love that kind of match. It's not my thing. I'm not judging you if it is yours, but a a lot of the response in the comments was like, and the crowd stayed mild. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how can you put yourself through all of that and still not draw emotion out? And therein lies, I think, some of the problems that we're seeing on the main television today is an over reliance in the spots. And Jericho is a great storyteller. So I'm not like, I think
I know.
Jericho is one of the greatest of all time. So if
He
he runs
he
across this podcast and thinks that I'm crapping on his match, like you're one of the
I
goats, brother. Like,
I love
I'm just saying.
Jericho. I loved him from WCW.
And
I
on.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like ever since he turned heel and he did it'll never ever happen again thing in WCW, and then he became Y2 Jericho when he jumped over to WWE, and then he came out with You Just Made the List, which at first I thought was dumb, but then I loved it in the end. It's comedy that does not take over the wrestling. But on a personal note, on why I like Jericho so much is there's an organization called Vietnam Pro Wrestling, and it was like I discovered them. They're just starting like 5 years ago, something like that. And so I sponsored them. I sent them some money to help them, get their ring and that kind of stuff. Because for a little while they didn't even have a ring. They were doing wrestling shows on gym mats. All right.
Right. Yeah.
And so they
Done
have
that once. Just saying.
Yeah, and I've seen it out in Washington State too. But they've done so well out there, and Jericho went out there, and he's been over at Vietnam Pro Wrestling a couple of times helping them out. And so, and because he thought it was great, and it's the only wrestling in Vietnam. So congratulations, you have a monopoly. I highly encourage that if you can get it. All right, but because he was willing on his own to invest and help them, I just love that, and my affection for Jericho just grows because of stuff like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, just hear this out. Like, I think that Jericho should be on the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling. And I know you're only supposed to pick a couple, but if I have to, I'm going to throw them out there because very few have been able to do it all. The sports entertainment side, the wrestling side, the reinvention side, all of it, as well as Jericho for as long as Jericho. My only thing in this instance is I don't see why he should ever have to do those kind of hardcore stunts at this phase of his career ever again. I don't think it's necessary. Like, you did the thing with Nick Cage or Gage,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Like, man, I don't, maybe a year or two
Like
ago,
yeah,
like
something
the
like
death
that.
match, and it was
Mhm.
and it was partly because he was doing the Trials of Jericho, and I got the story and I got why he did it, but I don't think you need to do it anymore. And when you're in the ring with a technician like Tommaso Ciampa, like, is there
Yeah,
really a reason to bring in all that kind of obstacles and a drill,
exactly.
if you will,
Well,
and all that? Like, I get it, but I don't think you need to. You're like one of the greatest of all time. Like, I want to see you work. I don't want to see the fake gore stunts. Not that the blood wasn't real, but like
right.
the props
If
were over the top. That's what I meant. The blood was real.
exactly. Yeah, absolutely. If you had Jet Li and Bruce Lee meet up in their prime, the last thing you wanted to see them do is have a gunfight, right?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. See, that's a perfect analogy, because I would love to see just those guys work, and instead it was a gunfight. And like, sure, you're great gunfighters, but that's not what I wanted to see. That's not what I
Right.
paid for, or what I had paid for. What I paid for is two of the greatest in-ring technicians to go at it and steal the show. And instead I got no offense to John Moxley, I got like a Moxley massacre match.
Right. And I was actually thinking that earlier. It's like Jericho should just leave that to Moxley.
Yeah. Yeah, when it's not to say that like Jericho couldn't count himself as one of the greatest deathmatch wrestlers of all time if he wanted to, but like, Jericho, man, brother, you're one of the greatest of all professional wrestling. Pick a match, and even if you weren't in it, you're one of the greatest of all time. Like, you don't
Right.
have to do it. You could be one of the greatest in the bra and panties matches. You don't need to do it. You're
Exactly.
an in-ring savant. It's fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
And king
So-
on the microphone. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Jericho on the microphone. No, he's totally one of my all-time top of Mount Rushmore, over Hogan.
Oh, yeah.
I would even say even over Savage, and I love Savage. Savage is
I mean,
iconic, but Jericho has had more longevity than, gosh, I think Hogan and Savage put together.
yeah, I mean, he's my go-to guy. You know, it's like, who's your favorite? It's going to be Jericho. It's going to be Michael Hayes, because I loved the Freebirds back in the day. Because
Yeah, sure.
I guess I've always been a heel, evidently. Terry Gordy was my first autograph.
Gotta be a heel, brother. No, I get it. Like, I'm still salty that the NWO is not for life. Like, that bothers me.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Like,
There's a guy on
So mad.
Facebook that I follow called Tenacious Tyler, and he is using AI to create a modern day NWO with modern day wrestlers. Kind of you look at it as AI
Wow.
fan fiction, if you will.
want to steal that gimmick right now.
All right.
I'm not gonna,
But
but
he has like Jeff Jarrett and Charlotte Flair in the NWO. I enjoy it. He gets a little bit of flack because he's using AI, but okay, he's using AI exactly the way AI is supposed to be used. So
yeah,
if
we're gonna
problem
just,
with it, yeah.
you know, it's just, I mean, it's the same thing when the internet came around, man. It's
Mhm.
just like these new tools get so powerful and they get so much flack. But it's the way of the future. Like, get used to it. I hate to tell you guys, like, you're gonna see more indie promoters booking shows with ChatGPT than you realize, or Gemini, and especially the posters. My God, how many promoters I've had come up to me trying to get me to help them put posters together because they just don't know what they're doing. They can just throw a couple of images in there and ask Gemini to do it. Like, it's
absolutely.
changing the game, and there's nothing you can do about it.
It can revolutionize the poster. All right, you can use AI to create a poster. Let's say you have 6 guys, 3 matches on the poster, right? You put that on Facebook and AI will animate. And so that first guy can animate into a match that they might have had before to highlight why they're fighting. And then it goes down to the next guy and the next guy.
Yeah.
So strangers to your show has a chance of becoming interested because now they got to see a little something. And that's one of my complaints about indie wrestling, since we're going to roll into that.
Yep, let's do it.
All right. So indie wrestling could learn a lot from high school football. Okay. And by that, I mean high school football, especially in Texas. But when I lived in Mississippi, did this too. Was a radio station Friday night show designated for people at the football games to call in and give live updates on what's going on at these games. All right. And then there would be a high school, like I think it's on Monday evenings, there is a high school football wrap-up show on TV that you can watch. All right. You have freaking a dozen indie wrestling shows in North Carolina by itself.
Yeah,
Right.
no, absolutely.
It is ripe for a wrap-up show. And your own independent show, you have the opportunity to do a recap show on your own to continue keeping the feeling alive, if you will, to your audience, to the people who missed it, saying, look what you missed out on. I mean, the old 80s wrestling used to show pictures of the events that you couldn't go to because, you're in Mississippi and the event's in Atlanta, and, it wasn't a pay-per-view event available back in those days. so you only way to see it was to pay. So whenever it comes to your town, you're like, I better save up my money because it's coming and I don't want to miss out. But it just showed the pictures and they talked about what happened to draw your interest. And you could do that. Like if you're running on a Saturday, you have a Wednesday recap show some highlights, that type of thing, hype up the next show, keep your fans in your vehicle and don't give them an opportunity to get out and get into somebody else's vehicle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I think by the time we had finished mapping out the industry for proof of concept on Overdriver, we had located, I want to say like 2,000 wrestling promotions worldwide. And that was just for proof of concept. There were definitely more out there. We just had drawn enough to show the better expanse of how massive the independent professional wrestling industry truly is. And most of them were in the United States. And I want to say we had 40 in North Carolina alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just a lot of opportunity that people aren't seizing for whatever reason. And I think from my experience, people have put up walls before they ever made the journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, for sure. Well, and I would just say this to any promoter out there that, ends up stumbling upon our podcast. Do yourself a favor and do just go on YouTube for just a few minutes. Give yourself 30 minutes of your life and look up what script writers and what novel writers actually think storytelling is. And I promise you can take those and disassemble those or dissect those strategies and refit them to pro wrestling and have much, much better storytelling than if you're just trying to imitate what you've seen on WWE and AEW. You're not going to ever come up with something new by sitting there and just trying to redo what you saw on wrestling 20 years ago or last week on TV. Learning the formula of telling a story and building characters and manipulating the emotions with the proven medias of time and refitting them, you'll come up with something new. And that's how you stand out in this industry, in the world, really. Just in the world today, you stand out by doing something just different enough, right? It could be similar, but just different enough to stand out.
And on top of that, if you are going to copycat, if you are going to play the same old story again, do it from the show from 20 years ago, not the one 2 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. and reinvent it, right? Because that's where a lot of these really big movies, Masters of the Universe, it just, it was I was a child when that was popular, and you reinvent it and reestablish it as a movie. Legend of Zorro is coming back. Legend of Zorro's older than I am, and it's making a comeback, right? You go deep into culture and find something that you dust off, reinvent it, make it fresh and new, and then bring it back. But if it was 2 years ago, we still remember, bro.
Yeah, we still remember. That's exactly it. We still remember. I don't know how many times I've watched WWE and say, oh, I remember this storyline from 3 years ago when they did it with this guy,
Yeah, absolutely. If Jon Moxley comes back to the WWE and doesn't do the Shield but starts his own NWO, that's money, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right, and then you can do a Shield reunion to destroy the NWO after it gets out of control. That's money.
Yeah, that's the shame with the NWO. That's how it just outgrew itself. But I love the Shield. I absolutely did love the Shield. I think it would be money to tease Jon Moxley like a Shield reunion, right? And everybody's coming back ready for a Shield reunion just to have him lead the NWO and destroy the other Shield members with the NWO.
Right. And I know that the WWE has tried really hard as of the past, and I'm not saying they've done a bad job at all. The Bloodline has, I think it's outlasted the Attitude Era as far as how long it's been going. The Judgment Day, I've enjoyed. I was big supporter of the Vision until it was cursed, and that was before Danhausen's cursed. So I want to know if he's got a sister or something. But I was so disappointed when, and I got over it quickly, but when Ric Flair and Batista and Orton and Triple H created Evolution,
Hmm.
like for them to not have rerun the Horsemen made me sick to my stomach. I'm like, Flair is there, guys.
I know. I
Like,
know.
why is this not the Four Horsemen? I don't understand it. So, like, why not go back into the stables that were big hits and maybe one at a time? You do your new ones, but bring something like the NWO by,
Yeah.
John Moxley, and then Randy Orton comes in out of nowhere, and you don't grow it too big. You make the first couple like really shock people, and that can build into something that later, again, like I said, like it books itself. Like you go
Oh,
2 years with the NWO growing too big for its own britches until like it kicks Moxley out, and then Moxley has to reform the Shield after 2 years of fighting his favorite friends, and then that's the one weapon that can take out the
right.
the big anti-organization. It writes itself, guys.
Yeah, exactly. And I was hoping they'd create the Four Horsewomen also with Charlotte, and
Right,
I
with
was gonna I
Charlotte.
was gonna self-nominate myself to be the JJ Dillon for that organization. So
Yeah, no, I totally saw a vision of the bloodline beating Rhodes down so badly that he had to call in a friend, and it comes up to be Ric Flair, and Ric Flair and him scout the talent to make the new Four Horsemen, and Charlotte would just have to be one, obviously, but
but
you know
she
that
had the Four Horsemen. I mean, because if you think about when they got the women's division right and they got rid of the diva thing and went with the championship, women's championship, and that type of thing. Um, it was Charlotte Flair, it was Becky Lynch, it was Sasha Banks and Bailey,
yeah.
and they were basically the Four Horsewomen of NXT. And
Yeah,
I just thought,
absolutely. They never followed that through, but I
yeah,
don't see any reason why you can't have Flair come back and establish a Four Horsemen and a Four Horsewomen and get those rolling.
that's
I would
an,
buy tickets.
an 8 horse stable. That'd be a new and an improved thing, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and Flair managing both of them until he like finally decides he can't live on this planet anymore. You know, has his 16th near-death accident.
Yep.
That man has outlived everything.
Yeah.
Everything. His life is remarkable, and just applauds to him, for sure. Just remarkable career. But I just think the nostalgia. I was actually disappointed when the Vision was the Vision, because I thought, man, what a great time to have Heyman do his Deadly Alliance again, right? I mean,
Hmm.
but I understand doing something new, but had you done my way, it wouldn't have been cursed. You would have just filled it with different people,
Yep. I
because that's
was
what he did.
I was hoping Heyman would get involved with a female wrestler as far as representation and guidance.
Yeah, I think Jordan Grace is actively trying to position herself to be the first Heyman girl or woman. Sorry, not girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just think there's some that needs coaching, and Heyman is excellent on the microphone.
Oh
He's
yeah,
he's got good charisma, and there's reasons why he's paired up with the people that he's paired up with. Nobody is going to want to stop everything and tune into a Brock Lesnar 30-second promo, right? But they'll stop and listen to a Paul Heyman 30-second promo. So, and I just felt there's a few women wrestlers that I thought would do well with a Paul Heyman until they're able to stand on their own.
yeah. Okay, so let me ask you, and we can get ready to close this out with this. Charlotte Flair's your obvious like first pick. Who are the other three horsewomen in today's WWE?
Today's WWE,
Mm-hmm.
I do like Sol Ruka.
Okay.
All right.
That's two.
Um,
You got two more.
I do like Jordan Grace.
Okay. Yeah, that could be the enforcer.
Right. And then, I don't know, someone that's different. Because Flair and Soul, they have a similarity. Jordan Grace is their own thing. But I don't know, someone colorful, I think.
Like Kalani Jordan. Because she's a
Yeah.
phenomenal, she's an amazing in-ring worker. Her
She
450,
is.
her frog splashes are great. Kendall Gray, also from NXT, is getting a ton of praise as far as her in-ring technical work.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of like her more.
Okay.
It's because it's a little bit more dynamic.
Sure.
So,
Yeah,
so
no,
yeah,
I get that.
I could go with that. Old school, it would have been, Becky Lynch, right? But she's on to other things now. But I those four, and you still have so many other great and talented women wrestlers to feud with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I tell you, you could play those games all day. Like for me, I would love to see Cody Rhodes have Ric Flair as a manager for the Horsemen, and I personally would just love to see Braun Breaker as like his enforcer, because that kid is
The
just
Arn Anderson,
fantastic.
basically.
Yeah, no, because you have to have somebody who breaks people, like your personal hitman.
Mhm.
Trick Williams has that kind of horseman kind of over the top flair dynamic. That kid's got a lot of talent coming up. And I think Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin had wonderful chemistry on NXT. I mean, I would try those four on a run. I would personally, but
I
that's just me.
I didn't like how WWE used Baron Corbin.
Yeah, he's back actually in just the past couple of weeks. He's got a SummerSlam match against Trick Williams for the United States Championship.
Are they letting him do his thing? Because he was always better than what they allowed him to be.
So far, it
previously.
looks that way. Well, we'll have to
Okay.
see how it plays out because he's only been back for a short period of time. He came in to screw up things for Carmelo Hayes and interject himself into this United States Championship scene. So we'll have to see how it plays in the long run. But SummerSlam, and I know there's a lot of haters out there. It's broken into 2 nights. I understand it. I understand perspective. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to enjoy both nights. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, don't let others change you.
They can't change me.
Right?
You know that. I'm stubborn. No,
Yeah.
look, Mike, it was great having you on. I hope to have you back so we can get more of your gentleman's perspective of both professional wrestling and the greater, very confusing Twilight Zone-like episode of the world that we're currently in.
Hey, anytime except when I'm not available.
Okay. I think we can make that work.
All right.
Michael King, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.
Peace be the journey.